Ich stelle meine Frage in deutscher Sprache. Ralf Belliger, mein Name. Ich organisiere den Hayek-Gesprächskreis an der Universität Passau. Ich wollte sagen, wir wissen ja, dass die Finanzkrise hauptsächlich durch die Zentralbanken ausgelöst wurde, durch zu niedrige Zinsen in Amerika, die Hypothekenkrise, aber auch die Staatsanleihenkrise wurde durch zu niedrige Zinsen und auch dadurch, dass sie Staatsanleihen als Sicherheiten annehmen und dagegen Kredite vergeben, die Banken dafür kein Eigenkapital hinterlegen müssen, ausgelöst. Ich wollte fragen, was Sie von der Idee halten, als Notenbank das Geldmonopol abzuschaffen und einen Prozess hin zu einer marktwirtschaftlichen Geldordnung zu begleiten, wo wirklich jeder Investor selbst auch für seine Entscheidung haftet. Denn wenn Sie als Kreditgeber letzter Instanz Kredite vergeben, investieren Sie ja auch, aber es ist kein Eigentümer da, der persönlich haftet, und es ist auch fraglich, ob Sie das Wissen als zentrale Instanz haben, dass hier dezentrale Investoren nach meiner Ansicht zumindest besser hätten.
Let me just say one thing about the crisis. I think the monetary policy was one circumstantial additional element to creating an environment where a crisis could actually erupt, as it finally eventually did. But I think the real root of the crisis has to be found in the several serious regulatory flaws in one financial jurisdiction. I think these regulatory flaws are not a one-off event. There have been flaws that have been created throughout several years, starting more or less with 2002, 2003 onward until the crisis. And this environment has created a situation where you had assets which were impossible to price correctly because they were opaque. You had a weakening of the regulatory controls of all kinds without going into too much detail. And around this, you had an abundance of liquidity coming from monetary policy, but also coming from what was called the savings glut. In other words, money flowing into the capital markets from Asia, from the Asian countries and other emerging market countries. And so again, we had a situation which is in a sense similar to what I've described before for government bonds. We had risk premia that were not reflecting the inner riskiness of the assets. In this environment, you also had excessive and misperceived leverage, that is to say, debt. In this environment of lacking transparency, very low interest rates, perverse incentives into action, you obviously had the actors raising too much debt and not even understanding how high was their debt, often because it was concealed by the very opaqueness of the instruments they were using to raise money. So that's I think, to give an overall complete fair picture of the, I would say, of the background in which the crisis had erupted. But now the next step is to say, how would be a world without central banks? I don't know. Frankly, you see, that's one of the things one like me should ask, because we tend to sort of work so much into our own nest that we often avoid the big questions like, how would the world be if I didn't exist? And I don't, I'll promise I'll reflect on this.